When I wanted to run away from home, he was there with me. When I was feeling down, he was there with me. So, pray for his family. I just want to say, I love everybody. Can y'all just shut it down? Please stop the violence. There's been too many people getting hurt in Dallas. So, just stop it. Love each other. Please. Do it for the community. Too many
us, the kids.
Too many people out here getting hurt for no reason. He was an innocent child. I was with him the day before. We went to the court playing basketball together. He didn't do nothing. When I was feeling down, he was there with me. For everybody. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Right? It's tight. So that was the friend of Malik Tyler, who was shot in a crossfire between rival affiliates of some, I don't want to say it's gang violence. I don't know if it was just a dispute.
Probably is gang violence.
Maybe, we don't know. But, it's an ongoing investigation. But, that is the reality of what we've seen in Dallas in the past month, being one of the most deadliest months in terms of homicide in Dallas since, 1991? Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, guys. It's kind of serious. Of course, we're going to try to have fun with it and, try to explain and allow everyone to really understand exactly what's going on in our city. We're in Dallas right now. For everyone who doesn't know if we're in Texas or whatever, we're in Dallas. We're in downtown Dallas right now. My name is Brian.
My name is Skyler.
This is The Flip Side, and we're going to be talking about it, man. But getting into it, just based off that, we've seen crimes. 41 homicides were in May. This was a huge. I think last year in 2018, Dallas had 93 homicides. So it's already almost half in 1 month. It's ridiculous. It's sad. It's disgusting in the sense that we're seeing so much violence in such a little amount of time. It's over a murder a day. If you looked at it like by a monthly basis, that's incredible to me. Something that we need to do.
Yeah, and just looking at the nation as a whole, it's not just Dallas that's being affected by it. There was a study that came out, and it kind of talked about shootings from 2001 to 2008 and compared them to the rates that we were seeing in 2009 to 2018. And that study found that there had been almost a double an increase in the amount of shootings that are carrying out, and that's across school districts, it's across malls, it's mass shootings. Just in this last decade, we've seen kind of a huge surge in just senseless violence. And that statistic right there, where it had doubled from 2001 to 2008 and 2009 to 2018, that excludes gang violence. That's just, that's talking about mass shootings. It's talking about things happening on campuses.
So that's just purely homicides, just things like that?
Yeah,
okay.
And that's kind of what we're going to try to get into today. We're going to try to give some opposing perspectives on how we think we should deal with it, the way that we run the show. Brian typically speaks from his voice on a lot of issues. He decides with the left. And on my own issues, I kind of side with the right on most things. So we're kind of going to have, someone who's conservative and someone who's somewhat liberal talk about the way to fix this, because that's the main goal of what we're trying to do. I mean, that video is heartbreaking. How would, I can only imagine if one of my brothers ended up being shot. Or even if he wasn't fatally injured, it would shock your whole worldview, And it's happening over and over again. There's shootings in churches, like what we saw in New Zealand when some guy went into a mosque. There's
Virginia Beach that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's getting a little bit. See, this is the only thing though. It's true though. This is why I want to reiterate before we get into is that overall speaking, crime has decreased. Now, I don't know the statistic on murder in general or homicide in general, but in terms of just crime is technically decreased in the United States. It's something that we can talk about, the negatives and blah, 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 but we can always look at, there's progression. Something's happening. We're doing something. It looks like, in my own opinion, in terms of Dallas, I think that before we really start trying to solve the solution, getting into the debates. I think we need to understand the understandables, if you will. What's going on. It's, we got to understand, is there a correlation between low income areas and crime, which there's studies that show a very strong correlation. Is there something that we need to do with the prison system? Is there allocation of, resources going to police? That's the thing we really need to understand. Those are the commonalities. And then from there, I think that's when we can really find solutions in terms of trying to curb or mitigate this homicide rate.
Yeah, and just on your point of allocation of resources, right. There was, they kind of study the amount of money from cities going to the police departments. Yeah. FBI does this, the national government does this. Right. And from 2013 to 2016, the nation lost 23,000 officers over those 3 years. 2/3 of reporting law agencies also reported a decrease in the amount of applications to become a police officer. And I kind of, I'm wondering why that is.
I was about to ask you. Yeah.
Nowadays, I really feel like people kind of hate the police force, but at the same time, we need the police force. Right. I feel like every other day there's some video on Twitter with someone being handcuffed and people yelling police brutality and, F the police are pigs. Right. And when you see that stuff surging up in communities, that's when you see videos of like people pulling up on officers and shooting them in the window when they're just sitting stationed somewhere. I feel like, we hate the police, but we love the police. And it goes back and forth, and it's cities that are impoverished that are really hurt by, a lack in trust in the police. In Newburgh, New York, there's some streets that the police don't even respond down to.
Right. I mean, Dallas, actually parts of Dallas, it can be an hour wait for police times, for 911 calls. Mm-hmm. An hour. Imagine if you were in some sort of situation where, your life or someone or your family members' lives are in danger, and it takes an hour. But that's because we don't have enough people on the police force.
You see, that's one of the points from a conservative standpoint I always say is a real good argument for the right to defend yourself via the Second Amendment. The police aren't going to be there if you're getting held up at gunpoint at a car and you're being pulled out. The police aren't going to be there in an instant when you're on a campus and a gunman walks into the school. The police aren't going to be there when you're in South Dallas and someone breaks into your home. The only person to defend yourself is yourself. And I feel like a lot of these places where the poverty levels are higher, there's less of a police force to deal with the spread of crime within that city. They're more spread out. It's tougher to defend yourself or rely on the police when it's going to take them an hour to get there. Right. But at the same time, a lot of these democratic cities are the same ones with the strictest gun control laws. It's the strict.
Dallas doesn't. Texas.
Dallas this last month has been a little bit of an outlier, and I'll admit to that.
I was going to get. Yeah, we have to see because it only happened in May, and not saying that we can't just disregard it. Of course, we're having a full episode because of it. However, we need to see if this trend continues. If this trend continues, and we definitely have, we have a problem with the bill, and we definitely have a problem. And we have a ingrained problem in our community. We have an ingrained problem in crime, policing, everything. However, before we get to that, and I'm glad you said that, we do need to take in consideration that this could be an anomaly. We don't know. We obviously, and this is for anyone, it doesn't matter. It's not just Dallas. In the summer, typically crime increases. People are out more. The people are at functions, yada yada yada. People might come with with a gun, whatever. They get in an argument, woo, boom, they take it out. Shooting happens. With Malik Tyler, he was killed from crossfire. He was in his house, stray bullet, boom, killed him. So that's it's not just burglars or just gang affiliate or gang violence. It's whenever there's a problem, and like you just said, that since there may not be a reliance on police, may be that people will shoot first and ask questions later. And obviously that's a problem.
Well, I don't know. I disagree with that. I don't think people shoot first. There was a study done where they looked at all the police reports in the United States in 2017, and they counted all the times that a weapon was brandished. In other words, someone brought out a pistol, a firearm, in order to prevent a crime. It's a self-defense mechanism using the Second Amendment, using a gun. And they found that in 2017, brandishing a weapon was used nearly 2 million times for personal protection, and of those 2 million times that a gun was used to defend yourself, it was only shot about 8% of those times. So I don't think people really, in my opinion, I don't think people are shooting first and asking later.
Well, the only reason why I would just disagree with that, just because if this was, say, New York City, or say a city or county or state that has way stricter gun laws, I would maybe there's a different argument for that. However, this is not like, in South Dallas there's the quote unquote good guys don't have guns and the bad guys just do. I mean, you're seeing. I mean, it's the problem is actually more deeply rooted than just there being a X amount of guns in a specific community. Whenever there is, and this is real. This is the correlation between crime and poverty, and or in crime in terms of being desperate. People will commit crimes, and if they feel like that's And of course there's a community thing that they need to fix. Don't get me wrong. However, people are now committing crimes, but if I have a gun, I'm more willing to commit that crime knowing that I might get what I want quicker, or I can get people to do what I want, blah, 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 because, it just increases the lethality of that crime. If I'm going to, mug you, Skyler, and I got a bat, of course I can kill you with this bat. But, the lethality of me having a gun and mugging you might be different.
So is your argument to try to take away guns? What is your solution?
No, absolutely not. I mean, this, and I've said this. Even though we had a gun. We need to do another one. We had a gun control episode a long ass time ago, like back in I think January. But my belief on that was I don't believe that we need to take away any guns right now. I think that as a society, as an American society, it wouldn't work. One, logistically. Two, we're just not in that mentality. We'd have way too many people try to just fight back. They would just fight back. And so, I don't think that it wouldn't be smart to try to enact that kind of policy. So to understand that and understand the scenario that we're in, we need to look at different options. We need to understand maybe a deeper root of why this is happening, not just trying to.
It's simple. The reason why this is happening is because violence, insanity, just evil is rooted in the human condition. It's always going to. It's something that can. It's something that can affect people. It's something that can happen if you're a human.
But these people aren't killing because they're insane.
Well, no, they're not. But I'm saying it's one of the things that's rooted in the human condition when it comes to mass shootings, and you see all these estranged people who are in solitary and just kind of detached from the public, doing these school shootings. It's something that's a part of being a human, is that sometimes people have a desire to hurt other people, and that's never going to go away. Looking at solutions, I really don't see any other method to combating some of these higher crime rates that we're seeing other than, I'm speaking specifically on violent crime. I think what we need to do is kind of look at what Detroit did. They actually made their concealed carry laws a lot easier, and they saw a reduction in crime in Detroit
they have
recently.
Concealed carry laws here.
Yeah, but I'm saying making that more accessible. I'm saying the only thing that's going to deter a bad guy with the gun is someone who's good with a gun. It's the only way to really look at it.
You're looking at a very complex situation with a very simple idea.
That is a simple right of self-defense. If there's more people who can defend themselves, there's less likely to commit a crime. If you're going to walk into
how did Malik die? He wasn't in an altercation with anybody.
There's going to be outliers.
Oh, so you can just sacrifice outliers like that. See, I don't like that. I don't know.
Outliers.
You're sacrificing people like that because you're saying, well, there will be outliers. I don't believe in that. I think that's why it's too simple.
Well, these people who are in the shootout or whatever.
I don't know much. I don't have a lot of information on them.
I know. No, we don't yet. But these people who are in the shootout, how are you going to take guns away from? How are you going to stop that problem? You can't stop that problem.
But it's not putting more guns in the situation. It didn't help. Malik still died. So that's what I'm saying. This is a deeply rooted problem that's very complex, that we need to look at multiple solutions that might be comprehensive.
Like what?
We got to look at why. Let's think about why that even happened in the first place. Obviously, we don't know the investigation, blah, blah, blah. But, why is there high crime in places in South Dallas, but not in Frisco? There's a higher education, more opportunity for jobs. There's allocation for the police forces. There's just better opportunity, and it's better well functioned in a sense that it allows for people to even rely on the police. I mean, in Frisco, I mean, you call 911, it might be a 10-minute wait, 5-minute wait, depending on what it is. But if you're in Dallas, it's an hour. So like you even said, that people aren't going to rely. Their reliance on the police is going to go lower and lower, and that their morality is going to be lower and lower. So they're going to get a gun because they know they can't rely on the police. However, we're still seeing high homicide rates. So that's what I'm saying is that we need to look at, the cycle of poverty, or we need to look at the communal perception of each other. There has to be more of a union. We had to understand maybe we should go put more allocation in education, social programs, things like that. And get with local leaders. Get with local leaders, and not just the mayor of Dallas, not just the council members, but go into those specific communities. Talk to church leaders. Talk to teachers. Teachers are absolutely, I don't know why, like teachers, principals, people of the educational system are leaders in that community. Why? Because they're talking to and educating the beginning of the future of that community. And either they're going to come out this way or that way. And it's going to really depend specifically in lower income areas, education and those educators. So I think that's what it has to be. I think that we need to be more intertwining of leadership, not just, which don't get me wrong. I mean, I have my beef with Governor Abbott, but he's sending Texas Rangers and more FBI operatives to help this situation. That's dope. Awesome. Cool. Great job, Governor. But guess what? You're not in that community all the time. The pastor is. The principal is. The nonprofit organization that's there is. The father on the corner is. That's why we have to look at these problems by. The complexity of it is not simply as, in this instance, put more guns in the situation.
Well, I don't know. All that sounds great, but I find it to be rhetoric because, let's say you made a note on like the pastors and everything like that, but do you really think the gang culprits and like the gang affiliates are the ones going to church?
Yes. Yeah, they are. Absolutely. Yes. They still go to church. Yes. Absolutely. They do.
I mean, I guess after you murder someone, you want penance. So.
Well, it's not even that. It's just that it's a cultural thing. That's the thing in a lot of these communities. And these communities we're really talking about are Black and Hispanic communities. What's up?
So it really is a cultural thing because last night we had people of the something religion. They're off of Martin Luther King, and they were actually just talking about the lady who was killed at the car wash.
Right.
And he was preaching the history about Crips and about how Crips started because of Black Panthers, and Black Panthers actually started because of a certain religion. So it all kind of trickles down. The gangsters, they feel like, a religion is a huge part of their life, and so they're gonna go to church. They're gonna pay their dues. They're gonna help their mom. They're gonna help their community. But they're still going to be gangsters. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, hell, and now, like, I'm just using this as an example. I don't know how active they are in Dallas, but like MS-13, they are, they go to church. Like a lot of them have, Catholic whatever markings, tattoos. Tattoos is a big thing. They still go to church, and so like, that's good. That's good. We want these gang members or these affiliates to be in church. Why? Because now it gives an opportunity. They're all in one place. Or not all in one place.
You don't think that the pastors in these churches after shootings have happened aren't talking about?
Oh, absolutely.
After every shooting, there's always people marching and everything like that.
Well, they're not marching right now. Fortunately.
But you can't say that it's not happening already. I just feel like it's
right. No, we need to have an emphasis on it. I think that's what it is. It's of course your pastor. I guarantee you, there's pastors out there right now talking to the youth. I guarantee you they got after school programs. I guarantee you they got after church or whatever, Bible study, yada yada yada. But like we need to make it an emphasis to really, go to schools and tell them if you want to do this blank, blank, and blank, you got to get here. You want to do this, open up, there has to be allocations of programs in the inner city in these areas to really reiterate how to interact with the police. And I'll give you an example of that. There was a city in Boston, outside of Boston, that they found that, having those police programs that they interact directly with the community and directly with the kids, specifically young kids, they saw a reduction almost in the next couple of years of crime based upon the community having a little bit more respect for the police. There's no respect between these two communities. And I think it's because we're seeing the police and the community as two separate entities.
Yeah.
The police is the community. They are part of the community. Of course, they police that community. But the best people to police that community is people of that community that join the police force. And that's why I believe, the DA or not the DA, but the head of DPD, Angela Hill or something like that. I forgot what her name is. But that was kind of what she was reiterating. Like, this is terrible that this is happening, but we got to understand, this historically why this happens. Blah blah blah. What we need to do. Maybe solutions need to change. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all good. Like future. I completely believe that we should be investing in our communities and speaking to these people at an early on age.
Yep.
But let's kind of shift focus just a little bit too, and it's a little bit off script. But what do we do for the immediate sense? Like that original statistic I gave of nearly a double increase in mass shootings in the U.S. A lot of these are in schools. A lot of these are in malls. It's great to think about the future generation, 10 decades, that could see a real impact if police made a decision to go to visit a school monthly and just talk about what they do for a community and what troubles they face, classes. And we invest in them more. But how are we going to keep people safe right now? And the reason I bring this up right now is because we're on the verge of 2020.
Yep.
Almost all of the elected officials running for the DNC, almost all of them are talking about gun control, banning it. Of course. I mean, a lot of them saying, assault rifles have no place on our streets. That was Stacey Abrams.
Right.
All of them are saying that I get your argument, but a lot of the people running for office right now are saying let's take guns off the streets. Let's get guns away from them.
Right.
I think one of the things that we could do for teachers is, I'll mimic what Trump said. He thinks that teachers who carry on campuses and in classrooms should be given a raise. Because
I agree with that. I do. They should be given a raise. Yeah, absolutely. Teachers do not get paid enough, man. Do not, bro. We disrespect our teachers so hard in this country. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's stupid.
You shouldn't be teaching the next generation of children and then also be struggling to pay your bills.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. But I mean, that's not just. I think that's both on Democrat and Republican sides. I've heard. Both of them. I mean, I think, and that's the things that I get excited about is the stuff that I like infrastructure, for instance. There's not really a lot of deviation in between of belief systems in terms of Democrats and Republicans. We all know we need better infrastructure, and then education. Both sides are like, guys, we probably need to do something about education.
But what do you think about arming teachers as a way to deal with the immediate mass shootings that took place over in Sandy Hook that take place in churches?
So mass shootings. So we were talking about gun homicides in Dallas, which is a different way. It's going to take a different.
Well, there might be a homicide in Dallas that happens in a school. I mean, we're not just speaking on what's happening.
Most mass shootings happen in suburbs. They do. Most mass shootings at schools happen in suburbs. They don't happen in the inner city. Mass shootings do not happen in the inner city that often. They happen.
But they happen in public places. The majority of the shootings that took place were in schools and
the schools, the theaters, the clubs, and things like that. Those aren't in the hood. Those aren't in lower income areas. Most of the time, no, don't get me wrong. Has it happened in lower income areas? I'm sure. I'm sure you can Google right now and find one. But the ones that we see a lot on news, they're not happening in lower income areas. They're not. They're not actually happening in majority Black and Hispanic communities. And that's why mass shootings is a different monster, meaning that's going to take a different way of thinking to try to mitigate that situation. But with gun homicides, that's different as well. I don't think that there's a catch-all solution for those problems. But I'm sorry. Your question was just like, what should we do about mass shootings?
I mean, what should we do about the shootings happening in schools?
In schools?
Do you feel like campus carry is a viable option? Do you feel that teachers should be armed? I'll tell you what's
mostly in lower income schools and not in schools like Lovejoy, the ones we went to, is metal detectors. They don't have metal detectors. I think that metal detectors would be a great asset and a tool to use.
And really, how expensive do you think metal detectors are these days? I mean, enough to save lives and taxpayers' dollars who go to school funding anyways, right?
Exactly. You know, I think that's one of the things that we should do. I mean, and other things with mass shootings. A lot of times these kids that are in these mass shootings, I'm talking about now, like the guy in Las Vegas. I'll be honest, probably nothing we could have done about that. Mm-hmm. Nothing. There's nothing we could have done. That wasn't a thing that he just kind of.
It was orchestrated.
It was orchestrated over like literally weeks to almost a month. There's nothing. There's psychos out there that unfortunately. Very hard to stop those things. Very, very hard. However, with kids that go and shoot up schools, but a lot of the ones that aren't really premeditated like that, you know, a lot of times we've seen that they've already been under the watch list of police, or they've like the kid that shot up. Oh my God.
Parkland High.
Parkland. I think it was Parkland. The kid, the freckled kid, whatever. Yeah, him. So he was already under the radar or on the radar for police. He also has been in and out of remedial schools for behavior. Those are the kids you kind of have to watch. Unfortunately, there's a lack of communication that should have been made. And on top of that, you know, he bought, I think, an assault weapon. He's 19. He was 19 at the time. I personally believe that getting an AR-15 or, you know, any type of precision rifle, blah blah blah, anything like that, semi-automatic. Any semi-automatic. It doesn't matter if it's military grade or not, or it's just a rifle. Any type of semi-automatic, I think, should only be purchased at the age of 21. Mm-hmm. And it should be just as hard to get those as getting your license for a car.
Yeah.
I think those should be the same prerequisites. That would help in terms of getting those reduction of mass shootings down by disgruntled kids. But also, too, you know, for the background checks on those type of things, and I know there's already federal background checks. However, you know, and this is going to be going back to our gun control debate, but it's not comprehensive across the states. It's all different, and I think that there needs to be more of a unison in terms of states, a minimum towards the states, a little bit higher, that make sure that people can't just like, oh, I can't get a gun here, I'll just go to the next state, and it'll be just as easy or easier. I think that's the problem. But that's just for mass shootings. And again, like I said, mass shootings is a different monster. That's going to take years of statistical data that we're going to need to be taking in to really understand what's going on with mass shootings. Because you're absolutely right, mass shootings have increased in the United States. Yeah. And we just don't know why right now. But that's mass shootings. Gun homicides, different beast.
You know, and a lot of these things with gun homicides, they might just start off, in my opinion, I think these crime rates are high with, even if the criminal doesn't shoot guns, I think a lot of these happen because they think that person is unarmed, or they have the confidence of someone who has a gun going against somebody without it. And that's why I said my first point on like how to stop these high crime rates is to have the criminals know that people are armed, that people are going to be fighting back. I think that's one of the cities I like to compare Dallas to is Detroit. And I had one video that I wanted to show. It's cut 4. It's a sheriff in Detroit talking about what they've done and a little bit to help out with crime rates. You can roll it. But yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to find cut 4.
Oh, no, you're good. There's like 7 of them. We'll probably only use this one.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. No, okay, well, this is why. Is it good? Are we rolling? All right, we'll talk about it next.
History of violence. What's your response?
My response is we're not talking about vigilantes. We're talking about good Americans who are trained, good Americans that need personal protection. I don't care what city you talk about in America, we cannot be everywhere. Look, let me give you an example. We had a 91-year-old man just last week pulled out of his car at gunpoint, thrown in the snow, carjacked. And there's story after story. This is about personal protection. And unfortunately, I don't care if you're talking about Los Angeles, a place I spent 28 years, or in the state of Maine, the police cannot be everywhere. This is about personal protection, and in some instances, the protection of others, because we've seen our good Samaritans. We've seen them go to the aid to others because they were good Americans with concealed weapons permits. So I disagree with the statement.
Detroit Police Chief.
My whole point in that is just that you're not going to have police everywhere.
Right.
And the criminals know that. They know that it might only take 2 minutes to rob a place. You know, the reason that they're more likely maybe to break into a home or go rob someone in a car is because there's not someone who's armed there, you know, and waiting for them. I feel like if we were really to train students on gun ownership and really divert
with
back
that.
to how
Yeah, I agree
people
with that.
used to view guns. I think George Washington said, a free country not only to be armed but disciplined. I mean, I think we should really
And we're not
push.
disciplined. That's
You
the
know,
problem.
that is a problem. You know, in high school we had to do some archery class. Miss Lyles taught it. I remember this. If you were part of this one course, you learned how to do archery.
Right.
I mean, I think it could be sensible to teach kids from high school age with parental consent. Show them gun ownership, show them how to use a weapon, start that discipline off at an early age so that when they become citizens and they're on their own, they can defend themselves. I mean, there's countless stories of people being mugged and people being, raped on college campuses, and the attacker gets away because there's no one there to stop them. In campus is specific. I want to talk about something that happened in 2007. A girl named Amanda Collins. This was at the University of Nevada. She had a concealed permit. She was a law-abiding citizen, but because it was a campus-free or a gun-free zone on the campus, she obviously wasn't carrying her gun with her on her night home. So in October, she was raped and beaten about 300 yards away from a police station by a man named Jones Buela. And 3 months later, this Jones Buela guy goes on to murder a 19-year-old named Brianna Donella. And I just think, Amanda, after she heard that this attacker, her same one, went on to murder someone else, she felt guilty that she could have stopped him from murdering someone else and she felt guilty because she didn't defend herself in that instance. I feel like if criminals know that they're walking into a place with a gun, if criminals know that the citizenry is armed, it's going to stop a lot of the violent crime rates.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to stop people like the video that we showed at the beginning from happening.
Can I rebuttal?
Yeah, definitely.
So this is why I think that though it is horrible that we see those type of victims that weren't able to defend themselves. I'm looking at more of those, and this is sound bad, but it's not necessarily a microcosm, but I think that those happenings don't reflect a whole community's worth of in terms of what gun control can or cannot do. And I give this example because Dallas is the ninth largest, just Dallas, not the Dallas metro area. Dallas is the ninth largest city in the country. The eighth largest city in the country, San Diego. It's a little bit bigger. San Diego is just a little bit bigger in terms of population. So population is pretty much the same. San Diego, of course, is in California. California having strict gun laws. Dallas in 2018 had 196 homicides. San Diego only had 35. And that's why I'm saying is that I don't think it's as simple as people need more weapons. If it was just that simple, we would see a obvious difference between countries, cities that have high gun control and ones that don't. We will see a obvious difference, and we don't. So that's why I say, and that's why I don't really like your comparison with Detroit and Dallas, because every single city is different. There's a different culture. There's a different, they're in different states, so it's different cities, different laws. And there's different types of people. So we got to take those consideration. That's why I say this is a complex problem. And those solutions are not going to be very simple. They're just not. They're going to be complex solutions. And they're going to be complex solutions that are based upon the specific city. I'm going to give you your last statements until we get into the break, and we get into something else real quick, guys.
So just last statements on just higher crime rates that we're seeing in Dallas. It's odd for that happening here. Dallas is a place where a majority of people, or I think it's nearly like 8% of people, have concealed weapon permits in the state. It might be lower than that. And it's weird seeing that happen here in our own city, higher violent crime rates. And my whole thing is that, it's going to happen when people are involved in gangs, when people are motivated by their own selfish interest. They're going to use whatever they can to take what they want from someone else. And I just know for a fact that if a criminal was if you took a person who had no weapon and a person who had a weapon, 9 times out of 10, the criminal is probably going to go for the person who had no weapon because he's more confident than him that he's going to be able to take what he wants from them. So that's why, in my viewpoint, I know it's a complex problem and everything like that, but I just think an armed citizenry is a confident citizenry. I think there'd be less rapes and muggings happening if you had people who could protect themselves. I think my statistic that I brought out with the 2 million times that weapons were brandished in the United States in 2017 goes to speak on how valuable it is to have a gun on you in the instance of a crime being committed upon yourself. And at the end of the day, it worries me a little bit seeing a lot of these candidates come up saying that we need to take weapons out. I realize that guns are the weapons that people are committing these crimes with, but I don't think the answer is going to be to hurt the law-abiding citizen or make it stricter for them. That's my final point.
We'll get back. We're going to get real back into that, guys. We're doing an hours long worth of talking about Dallas because we live here. We're concerned about it, and this is something that y'all should be concerned about, specifically here in the city. But we're going to take a little break, guys. It's going to be like 4 or 5 minutes. Oh, no, it's not. It's like, what, 2 minutes? 2, 3 minutes? 2.5 minutes. My bad. 2.5 minutes. We'll take a break, guys. We'll be right back.
Alrighty, welcome back to The Flip Side. Today we're just talking about what we can do about crime and just kind of what we think on that. So another story that we want to bring up, especially because, you know, it is Pride Month.
And it happened in Dallas.
There was a transgender woman who was beaten and killed. The Dallas Police Bureau labeled it a hate crime.
Yeah.
And we're kind of seeing a surge not only in, you know, violent crime against just this normal citizenry in schools. We're seeing it on specific demographics. So here's a video we'd like to show on this crime that took place over the weekend, I think, or about within this month.
It was I think it was a couple weeks ago, but
Yeah.
it's still in the headlines.
Today at approximately 3 p.m., the victim was positively identified as Malaysia Booker.
She became a victim of mob violence and video proof of people urging that violence on.
This time it was me, the next time it could be someone else, close to you.
Malaysia Booker received nationwide attention in April after her recorded attack by a group of men. Booker, a transgender woman, faced that attack after a car accident and argument escalated outside the Dallas apartment complex. Tonight, Dallas police say officers responded to this isolated East Dallas street on Saturday morning on reports of gunshots.
It was after the medical examiner was able to positively identify our victim, and we were informed that the victim was in fact Malaysia Booker.
Booker was shot at least once. After the attack in April, police arrested 29-year-old Edward Thomas, who was identified in that video. He is out of jail, and police say there is nothing so far to connect him to Booker's murder. Those who protested against Booker's beating in April called her killing an act of injustice.
It is almost as if Malaysia Booker never had a chance.
Yeah, so there's that happening. You know, it's kind of weird seeing these crimes spur up, and I feel like a lot of this is due to how new a lot of these things are happening with the United States. You know, it was just only within this decade that we saw the rights for gays to marry, and you know, there's kind of a resurgence in like self-identity. People can identify as what they'd like, and not that we have to get into a debate on the philosophy of that, but there's also an increase in hate crime against people of specific demographics, a lot of them being transgender. I also saw that there was one couple that was beaten on a bus, these two lesbians, because they refused to kiss.
Yeah, I seen that.
And it makes me wonder, you know, why is this happening? Is it because of our society's not okay with these things? Is it because, you know, what do you think the underlying reasons are behind some of these crimes?
You know, you can't really pinpoint, you know, a lot of liberals would like to you know, pin this on just, you know, the typical conservative MAGA hat wearing person.
Jussie Smollett.
well, yeah, but here's the thing, though. You know, that's why it pisses me off with Jussie Smollett, not knowing if he was telling the truth or not, because that shit actually happens, and that he almost he doesn't not validate, but like he makes it harder for true victims to come out saying like this actually happens. When he lies about it, it's almost like, you know, rape victims, rape victims, which doesn't happen a lot. Don't get me wrong. But some that do come out saying that, you know, actually, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's awful, because now you're making it harder for real rape victims. Yeah. But, you know, and you know, that was Malaysia Booker. Unfortunately, she was, and this is what I heard. I don't know if this is true or not, but
she was found dead.
She was found dead. But when she was beaten, it was off of a bet. And some guys were like, I bet you won't whoop this person's ass. You know what I mean? $100, whatever. And but you're playing with somebody's life like that type shit. So like, you know, and then on June 1st, I'm reading, Chanel Lindsay, 26-year-old, her body was pulled out from White Rock Lake, transgender. She was killed. You know, I think that we are seeing, like you said, we're seeing a resurgence, of people you know, wanting to identify a certain way, blah blah blah, that might be going against you know, status quo belief of, you know, genderism, things like that, and really it's being targeted on the you know, with gay rights, the LGBTQ plus community, and we have a huge demographic right now in the United States. Now, we're better than other countries like Saudi Arabia. I get that. However, we're still seeing that animosity, that violence against these people, and of course it's wrong. But we really need to look up, you know, and try to understand why. Why is there such a backlash? Where is it coming from? What belief system is making them think this way, or lack of? You know, that's what we need to really look at. And unfortunately, I would say for the black community, we still have a problem with homosexuality. We have a problem with homosexuality. It's deeply rooted, I believe, in overly toxic masculinity that kind of happens in the black community. And when they see homosexuality, they see it almost as an affront to being a man, and that's wrong. Yeah. And that will always, you know, turn into violence.
I think a lot of the animosity on it also just comes from people aren't ready to accept it. People disagree with the lifestyle. People disagree with how a lot of corporations, whenever it's June, they turn all their colors to like the rainbow flag, and people they're mad at seeing perhaps some of their culture and things that they were raised on fade away. A lot of some of the people I know could have never imagined people the way that they are now, people getting transgender surgeries, people getting all these different, even marriages shocked a lot of the community. I'm sure a lot of, of the baby boomer generation was kind of shocked by that.
Yeah,
and I think people are mad at that. So when they do see the individual who happens to be transgender, happens to be homosexual, there's just an innate animosity in it. I mean,
let's think about it philosophically, man. Like, why do you think, and maybe not just transgenderism, but why do you think that, a lot of times this, when there's a change or a radical change in society, why do you think that a lot of that pushback that when people don't believe in it, why does that tend to turn into violence? Why do you think that's the route? Like, is it coming from a place of, and I always say that a lot of times in human history, the things that we don't understand, we fear, and that fear turns to anger, and that anger turns to violence. Not to quote fucking Yoda, because that's what he said, but it's true. Like, people will fear something because they don't understand it or they disbelieve in it, and then they get angry because they see in it more and they think it's an affront to their own beliefs, which sometimes, and unfortunately it does, turn to violence. Why do you think that maybe, and not just transgenderism, you can use anything, why do you think that kind of happens in society?
And it goes much further than transgenders or homosexuals, because it goes with political ideology too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see people in red MAGA hats get beaten all the time and hit from behind all the time, and there's a whole controversy that sparked with Nathan on the DC, by the DC monument whenever that Indian came and spoke to him. It's like
the Native American.
I think what it comes down to is like when these radically different ideologies, whether it be your view on sexual orientation or with political ideology, you almost come to hate that opposing belief.
Why? That's what I never understood. Like, why? Why do you hate the people? I don't hate. Like, that's why I don't. And hate is. And I'm not saying.
I think it's.
I'm
hate.
not saying you, of course, but like. For instance, I mean, obviously that's what the flip side's all about, and that's why we're here. I don't hate you because you want to outlaw abortion. I don't hate you for that. I don't connect, and that's the thing a lot of times. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there is a string between your belief and your character, but I think that there is a disconnect in a lot of ways. Specifically, if we're talking about like fucking tax reform or something, that has nothing to do with my character, and that's why I think a lot of people get upset or just don't understand, don't have that connection. Is that you want to outlaw abortion, but I don't think you're a bad person. It doesn't make you character-wise a bad person. I get that it's your convictions, and of course your convictions can be a part of who you are as a character. However, I think that we shouldn't, and we talked about this before, I think you shouldn't demonize the person. You can demonize the belief, but don't demonize the person. Because if you demonize the person, it makes it easier to make them subhuman, to look at them as not as human as you are. And then when that happens, when we see people that are, and it's almost as if it's an innate thing that humans do against each other. We almost look at other. That's why we can kill animals and then not feel the same way as me killing a person. And I think that when we demonize people, we create them. I mean, the fucking Nazis talked about Jews being, animals. Blah,
language.
Blah, blah. Shut up. Blah,
I'd let you say a couple bombs on this show.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, and when that happens, it almost allows violence to be justified in a sense.
Yeah. Do you think religion plays any part in this? Because I always say that it's a Christian nation, and a lot of the Christian.
Saying that basically justifies prejudice against people who are not Christian.
But that's the thing. It's like people who are religious. Some people, not everyone agrees with this, but they see it as like defilement whenever a man is wed to another man, and they have sexual relations with one another, because the Bible talks about it. Right. So. I feel like a lot of what we're seeing with these crimes against homosexuals and transgenders is just because of the nation that we're in the same way that in Saudi Arabia they'll hang gay people. It's not just like people giving you dirty looks in the street. They'll actually, they'll either stone you or they'll hang you. Yeah. So it's not like we have problems like that, but in our society, you know.
But but here's the thing though, them stoning, you know, homosexuals, them executing homosexuals, is directly correlated to their religion. Regardless if it's, I mean, yes, in those countries they're Muslim, and I've said this not on camera, but I personally believe that, you know, there's a bunch of different variables. Don't get me wrong, but I think that Islam didn't go through the Reformation that Western Christianity did. That because at one point Western Christianity was the exact same brutality as Islam. Exact same. But you know, the emergence of like the Renaissance and things like that, you know, took out more of the archaic tenets of a lot of things that happens biblically. And so I don't think that Islam kind of went through that. And I think that's why you're seeing, you know, still seeing societies stoning gay people. But that's because of their religion. And so that's why I don't, even in our country, you can call it a Christian nation. It doesn't matter. Because our laws aren't based upon they're not based upon, you know, the Bible. They're not. Our laws had to encompass everyone. But think about it though. You can call it a Christian nation. That's fine. I mean, the Ottoman Empire was a secular nation ran by Muslims. They allowed Christians and Jews in their country. You know, but it was secular in the sense that their laws and their governance was secular. They were just run by Muslims. And I think it was a caliph, but the caliph wasn't it wasn't, you know, Sharia law. There was no Sharia law in the Ottoman Empire, and you can quote me on that, or don't. I mean, you can Google that. I'm 90% sure there was no Sharia law in the Ottoman Empire, at least throughout the tenure of the nation. However, in the United States, Christian nation or not, our laws should not be based upon Christianity. They should be encompass everyone, Christian or not. Muslim, Buddhist, Taoist, Confucius, atheist, it doesn't matter. They shouldn't have to abide by Christian law because they're not Christians.
Well, that's a Christian principle itself. It's not forcing that belief on anyone. Well, I feel like we're straying away a little bit. But
you essentially said that, you know, the reason why is because we're in a Christian nation that we're seeing gay people being attacked.
Yeah, I know.
So that's religion.
Yeah,
it's not a law, but it's religion.
My point on that was that it is, you know, kind of a value of Christianity to not have it forced upon you. You know, it's something that you decide by choice. And
abortion's choice.
Tell you what, I think a lot of these attacks on transgenders would stop if they arm themselves. You know, that's a good point.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe. I don't know. Malaysia was jumped by multiple people. I don't think her having a handgun would have done anything.
Yeah.
No, because they would have went back and shot. Oh, they did. They went back and killed her with a gun. So imagine she took out a gun, shot one of them. They dispersed. Maybe she came out alive. They're coming and gunning for her ass because that's what exactly they did.
Well, people break into homes all the time, and people.
Well, they were gunning for her. That's why I'm saying that.
Well, when you have a hit out against you like that, it's gonna.
So you're saying that her having a weapon would have saved her life?
Maybe when she was jumped that first time, you know, it could have scared them off.
You think none of them had a gun during that time?
Well, you know, they might have.
They probably did.
They might have.
And her pulling out her weapon, guess what? They're going to pull out their guns. And there's more of them. She's dead. Now, of course, she died anyways, unfortunately. But what I'm saying is that throwing guns in that situation would have done nothing. But
I mean, that's
made her death swifter. That's all would have happened.
That's a hypothetical, but she at least could have defended herself.
And get shot that day? Yeah, probably.
I mean, I would rather defend myself and go up against other people than have no protection on me.
Of course, Skyler, but we're talking about lives here. We're talking about, you know, what's the best way to make sure that doesn't happen? And that would have never happened if we had a respect for the gay community and respect for each other just in general.
But you can't make people respect something they
can't.
don't respect.
However, but that's the point. That's the point. And that's why people don't get, you know, why do we have Pride Month or Pride Week or whatever? Why do we have a Pride Month? Exactly this. Awareness. It starts with awareness. It starts with people understanding and being able to go out and maybe meet a gay person that they've never met before, understanding that they're not some, you know, taboo witchcraft, blah blah blah, what do you want to call it? You know, it's not something that they're just a bunch of perverts that I've heard like that people have said to try to, you know, say we shouldn't have Pride Month. That's not the point.
But people
because it started out as a protest. It started out as protesting for gay rights, and of course we've done well. We've done better than it was back in the day. However, that's why we still need it because obviously we're still having people being harassed,
but
killed,
a lot
beaten,
of people
shot.
see these parades and everything as as that community kind of forcing it down everyone's throats.
How?
No pun there intended, but
Shut
a lot of people see it as forcing it down their throats, for what is it called? These
So they shouldn't do it. They shouldn't do it.
Well, I'm saying this: why do we need to go and? I just feel like
because Malaysia Booker got beaten and shot. That's why we had to keep doing it.
I don't know. You see, one of the things that I don't like about these parades that I see is whenever there's young kids, really, really young kids, that'll dress up in suit or dress up in clothing. They're called drag kids. They'll go and be in this parade full of men, and they're in skimpy clothing, doing splits and all these other things in front of everyone. And I honestly don't like seeing that. I see that as pretty bad parenting when you're letting your kid go out there and be like that with people barely dressed. I see photos of
raise a bigot.
Well,
that's
no,
bad
bro,
parenting.
no.
Yes,
I don't think you should bring your
yes.
young. I don't think you should bring your young adolescent daughter to a parade where men are fully exposing themselves in front of her. I've seen pictures where this 5-year-old girl was staring at some man who was completely
is
naked.
The reason why we're getting
no, but I'm saying there's a lot of people who get mad by that, and it stirs animosity the other direction.
Guess what? I don't care. That does not justify murder.
I didn't say it did.
But no, I'm not. What I'm saying, I'm saying through you essentially.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people who believe that that homosexuality is abomination, or have this animosity towards homosexuality, or just the LGBTQ community in general. That does not, no matter how you perceive the Pride Month or Pride Parade, that will never ever justify murder. That will never justify beating a woman senseless, and then going and shooting her. Never. It does not matter. That's why I think it's a weak argument. We need Pride Month to raise more awareness. Until we don't have a community being under attack. Now, it's not as bad, like I said, in other countries, however.
But if we feel that it is something that is wrong as a society, if we view that as something that is wrong, and we got to wrap this up pretty quickly, but if we view it as something that's wrong, why should people have to celebrate it? Why should we have a whole month
freedom of speech,
dedicated to it?
Freedom of speech, they can. Parades, freedom of speech. They're not hurting anybody. They're not setting things on fire. They're not doing anything crazy. It's not a riot. It's a parade. They're raising awareness for pride, for LGBTQ rights. Mm-hmm. That's in our Constitution. I want to see your final remarks. Now, we've been talking more so about LGBTQ and what happened with Malaysia and Chanel and other people who have been victimized. I don't have their names. However, it's a crime, right? So what's your final remarks, just about crime in general and these happening in Dallas? So what do you think needs to be done, Mayor Skyler Roundtree? What would you do?
Okay. Well, I'll start off with the transgender because that's the most recent thing that we talked about. I think we're going to see that just because it'll probably go, maybe we'll see a crime like that decrease in the future, but right now it's still a very fresh topic. I mean, a lot of people view transgenders as people who have mental illness when they go and electively decide to remove their bodily anatomy. And, this is something that's new for our generation, so maybe over time we'll see people get more normalized with it. When we're seeing these public restrooms for both genders and whatnot, maybe we'll see a decrease. I don't really have an answer to it. It's something that people aren't okay with, and that's probably where we're seeing crime in that area specifically. When it comes to homicide and rates like that with just violence committed with handguns, I think that the goal to that is to arm the citizenry. I don't think we're ever going to be able to stop the crime that's happening because people are innately going to want to follow their own selfish instincts and exert themselves over another. I don't think the answer is what a lot of the leftists claim to do. An analogy I wanted to give, and I'll leave it at this, was that there's no one in this entire room that would say that when a lion's chasing down a gazelle, the gazelle doesn't have the right to use its hooves to defend against the lion. But there are people in this country and in elected offices who wouldn't give that same right of self-defense to a human being. I think the best way to protect the citizenry isn't just to go to schools and educate them and have police officers and departments come to schools and educate them on what they're seeing, but to raise a citizenry that is armed and disciplined, just like Washington said back in the 1700s. that's my final take.
Well, man, my final take's gonna be a little bit shorter. Obviously, I disagree. Obviously, in terms of Mayor Brian Hesson's agenda, what I would do.
You wouldn't get elected, man. I don't think you would.
Oh,
you're way too far left.
I am not that far left. I'm way more independent. Anyways, in terms of the LGBTQ and the transgenderism and animosity towards that community, definitely charging with hate crimes would be something that would be a higher proponent of me making harsher charges towards that type of criminality. I think that I still believe that the whole point of governance, of course, is to protect our constituents and the public. But at the same time, I still think that a part of it is trying to educate on social issues. And so, programs that allow people to come in and meet with homosexuals and homosexual or LGBTQ leaders, being able to go and voice their opinions more often, kind of give them more political power in the sense that they have more of a say. I think that's what I would try to establish as mayor. Now, it comes to gun homicide rates. If I'm mayor of the Dallas, I'm not putting more guns in more people's hands. It shows that doesn't work. San Diego, like I said, San Diego is in California, a little bit higher population, and they have less crime. So, and their laws on gun control are a lot stricter than Texas, obviously. What I would do, and obviously I'm not the mayor, I don't know the ins and outs of local municipalities and things like that. However, what I would try to do is allocate more resources to our police force, in Dallas in particular. We are down in terms of, like you said, of applicants. We need more people to be cops. We need better incentives to be cops. Better higher pay. Make sure that they have benefits, blah, 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 things like that. There'll also be an allocation of programs allowing for the community to start reestablishing that respect and that, trust in the police. Going into every school, going into every church. Really, if I'm the mayor of Dallas, I'm talking to pastors. I'm also talking, like I said, teachers. I would put more emphasis on education, specifically in the pre-K through elementary school. Why? Because I want to raise, and end the cycle of poverty. Because this will continue to happen regardless how many guns are out there. If the cycle of poverty continues, if you can break that or slow it down, you will see crime decrease. But that's my final take for Mayor Brian Hesson.
You said you'd be shorter, man. That was way longer. Than
I know. I had to get all that stuff in. But hey, man, I appreciate y'all. I mean, this one was a far calmer conversation than we had. The last one was on abortion. Check that out. We go buck wild on each other. Next episode, we're gonna have to do something to spark it off. Well, let us know. You know what I mean? Let us know. The flipside on air at gmail.com. Email us for comments. You want to talk about a thing? You want to talk about a specific topic, or you want to come on? Maybe. Well, that depends. But you can find us on the flipside on air on all social media. Twitter, Facebook. We're on Facebook and we're putting up on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please, for the love of God, subscribe. We need more subscribers, please. But I appreciate it, man. My name is Brian.
I'm Skyler, the co-host.
And we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Later.